Hi, I'm Monica. Before I dive into my story, if you find it gripping, please like and subscribe for more. It was one of those evenings that felt like it was pulled straight from a movie. Family gathering, laughter, clinking glasses, and the unmistakable aroma of a feast being prepared in the kitchen. My mother-in-law, Elaine, was the self-proclaimed queen of the kitchen, and tonight, her special crab soup was the star of the show. My husband, Tom, was bustling around, helping to set the table, his eyes occasionally meeting mine with a warmth that seemed to vanish the moment Elaine spoke. As the dinner commenced, the air was filled with chatter about everything and nothing. It was during the main course, the infamous crab soup, that the evening took a sharp turn. "Monica, when will you learn to make this soup? It's a family tradition, after all." Elaine's voice was casual, but her eyes had a sharp glint. I smiled, trying to brush off the discomfort. "I'm more of a salad person, Elaine. Soups are your expertise." There was a pause, a moment where the clinking of spoons against bowls filled the silence. Then Tom chimed in, his voice unexpectedly harsh. "Mom's right, Monica. It's about time you started taking these traditions seriously." My smile faltered. The room felt suddenly too small, the walls inching closer. "I do take them seriously, Tom. It's just that cooking isn't my strongest suit." Elaine laughed, a sound that scratched at my already fraying patience. "Not strong at cooking? Darling, that's like saying a bird isn't strong at flying. It's a basic skill, especially for a woman in our family." The laughter that followed from some of the other relatives felt like tiny daggers. I looked around, hoping for an ally, but all I met were eyes that either agreed with Elaine or chose to stay silent. I tried again, my voice a little steadier. "Everyone has their strengths, Elaine. Mine just happened to lie elsewhere." Tom leaned forward, his voice low but clear. "Like where, Monica? Watching TV series or scrolling through your phone? That's hardly a skill." The room erupted in chuckles and snide remarks. My face burned, not with embarrassment, but with a growing anger. This wasn't just about a soup. It was about respect, something I was being denied at my own dinner table. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Maybe I don't cook soup, Tom, but I also don't belittle people at their dinner table." "Excuse me." I left the room, the sound of their laughter following me like a taunting echo. In the sanctuary of our bedroom, the walls that once held memories of love and laughter now felt cold and alien. This wasn't just an insult. It was a declaration of where I stood in this family. In their eyes, I was nothing more than an inadequate housewife, unworthy of the family I had married into. But as I stood there, letting the reality of the evening sink in, a fire kindled within me. A determination to not just prove them wrong, but to make them regret ever underestimating me. That night, as I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I knew something had to change. I couldn't and wouldn't live in the shadows of their scorn. The journey ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. I was not going to be the same Monica they thought they knew. The next morning, the house was quiet. The remnants of the previous night's dinner a stark reminder of the events. Tom was his usual self, seemingly oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. Elaine, on the other hand, carried a smugness that irked me more than her words had. As they went about their day, chatting and laughing as if nothing had happened, I sat there, my mind racing with plans and possibilities. This wasn't just about learning to cook a crab soup anymore. This was about reclaiming my dignity, my self-worth, and showing them that underestimating me was their biggest mistake. Little did they know, they had ignited a spark in me, a resolve to turn the tables in a way they would never see coming. The insult at the dinner table was just the beginning. The real story was about to unfold, and I was going to make sure it was one they would never forget. As the day rolled on, every smirk from Elaine, every patronizing glance from Tom, only added fuel to my burgeoning resolve. They thought they had won, but in reality, the game had just begun. After the crab soup fiasco, things at home just spiraled downwards. Elaine and Tom started a relentless campaign to make me feel like an outsider in my own home. Every day was a new chapter in their book of insults. One evening, while I was trying to relax with a book, Elaine's voice sliced through the silence. "Really, Monica, still lounging around? A productive person would have cleaned the living room by now." I kept my eyes on my book, trying to control the frustration bubbling inside me. "Tom, Your wife could learn a thing or two about keeping a home. Then Tom's voice, like a hammer to my patience. Mom's right, Monica. Look at this place. It's embarrassing. I finally looked up. I work too, you know. It's not just my job to clean. Tom snorted. Work? You call that part-time job work? Please, Monica. When will you start contributing for real? Every word stung. But I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me crumble. I got up, my voice steady. I contribute in many ways, Tom. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. The days turned into weeks, and the snide remarks became a routine. Breakfasts were battlefields. Dinners were disasters. The once warm home felt like a cold, hostile territory. But amidst all this, a plan was taking shape in my mind. A plan to turn everything around. I started by documenting every insult, every belittling comment. My phone became a treasure trove of voice recordings and quick notes. It was going to be my armor, my weapon when the time came. Then one afternoon, as I was sipping my coffee, Elaine's voice cut through the quiet. You know, Monica, a good wife would have made her husband's favorite dish by now. It's been weeks. I put down my cup, my voice calm but firm. A good mother-in-law would respect her son's wife. We can't all be perfect, Elaine. Her eyes narrowed, but before she could retort, Tom walked in. What's going on here? Your wife's being disrespectful, as usual, Elaine replied, her voice dripping with disdain. Tom turned to me, his disappointment clear. Can't you just get along with my mom? Is that too much to ask? I met his gaze, my own unwavering. I've tried, Tom, but respect is a two-way street. As the tension in the house grew, so did my determination. I started reaching out to friends, gathering advice and support. I knew I couldn't do this alone. I needed allies, and I was going to make sure I had them when I made my move. One evening, Elaine tried a different tactic, trying to corner me with chores. The living room's a mess, Monica. Time you did something about it. I stood up, collecting my things. I'm busy, Elaine. Maybe you could take care of it. Her eyes flashed with anger, but I didn't stay to see the explosion. I had bigger plans, and they didn't involve cleaning up after her and Tom. The following week, I overheard Tom talking on the phone, his voice laced with worry. Yes, I understand, but we need more time to come up with the money. Money troubles. This was something I could use. I started digging, going through our financial statements, bank accounts, looking for clues. And there it was, hidden amongst the monthly expenses, a debt that was spiraling out of control. I confronted Tom about it that night. We need to talk about this debt, Tom. Why didn't you tell me? He looked away, his voice a mix of shame and frustration. I was going to handle it. It's not your concern. Not my concern? We're married, Tom. Your problems are my problems. But he was dismissive, as always. Just let me handle it, Monica. You wouldn't understand these things. That's when I knew I had them. They underestimated me, thought me incapable and unworthy. But I was going to use their ignorance to my advantage. I started meeting with financial advisors in secret, planning my next move. Every insult, every demeaning comment was fuel to my fire. Elaine and Tom thought they were pushing me out. But in reality, they were pushing me to become something they never expected. I was going to come out on top, and when I did, they were going to regret ever fed up with the constant belittling. I knew it was time for action. If Elaine and Tom thought they could push me out that easily, they had another thing coming. I started my days with a new purpose, seeking allies in unexpected places. I made an appointment with a financial advisor, Mr. Daniels, in a quaint little office downtown. His place was a breath of fresh air compared to the stifling atmosphere at home. So, Mrs. Johnson, what brings you here today? Mr. Daniels asked, peering at me over his glasses. I need to understand our financial situation, especially regarding my husband's debts. And I'm considering my options for independence. Mr. Daniels nodded, sifting through the papers I handed him. I see. Well, let's take a look at what we're dealing with here. Turns out, Tom's financial woes were deeper than I imagined. Loans, overdue credit card bills, the works. Mr. Daniels laid it all out, and the picture wasn't pretty. You have a few options, Mrs. Johnson, he said, his voice serious. But securing your own financial stability should be your priority right now. I left Mr. Daniels' office feeling a mix of dread and determination. Dread for the mountain of problems I was uncovering, and determination to climb it no matter what. Next, I met with a lawyer, Mrs. Green. Her office was all sleek lines and sharp angles, a stark contrast to the cluttered warmth of Mr. Daniel's place. Mrs. Green was a no-nonsense woman, her eyes sharp and her words sharper. Document everything, Monica. Every insult, every attempt to undermine you. It'll strengthen your case if it comes to that. Armed with her advice, I started recording every interaction with Elaine and Tom. I kept a diary, a detailed log of every snide comment, every disparaging look. If they thought their words were just vanishing into thin air, they were sorely mistaken. Their attempts to rile me up continued, but with each passing day, I grew stronger, more resilient. I was a woman on a mission, and nothing they said or did could deter me. During one of our evening dinners, Elaine tried a different tactic. You know, Tom, maybe we should consider getting some help around the house. It's clear Monica can't handle it. Tom nodded, not even bothering to defend me. Might not be a bad idea, Mom. I looked at them, my resolve hardening. If that's what you think is best. I was playing the long game now. Let them think they had the upper hand. Let them believe I was just the incapable, submissive wife they saw me as. Because with every passing day, I was moving closer to my goal, independence, strength, and ultimately, my triumph over their petty games. The diary grew thicker, the recordings more frequent. With each entry, I felt a sense of empowerment. I wasn't just a victim of their cruelty. I was a recorder, a chronicler of their misdeeds. And soon, very soon, they would realize just how much they had underestimated me. My visits to Mr. Daniels and Mrs. Green became more frequent. I was building my arsenal, preparing for the battle ahead. I was no longer just Monica, the woman they mocked and belittled. I was Monica the strategist, Monica the fighter, Monica the survivor. And as I lay in bed each night, listening to the quiet breathing of Tom next to me, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of sadness. This wasn't how I imagined our life together. But then I remembered the words, the looks, the dismissal, and the sadness was replaced by a steely resolve. I was ready to stand up for myself, ready to claim what was rightfully mine. Things were about to take a drastic turn. I discovered Tom was neck-deep in financial trouble at work, a mistake that could cost him his job, and us, our home. But instead of panic, I felt a strange sense of opportunity. It was time to use this to my advantage. One evening, while Tom was pacing in the living room, phone in hand, I decided to strike. You seem worried, Tom. Anything I should know about? He looked up, startled. It's nothing, just work stuff. I walked over, my tone casual, yet probing. Must be serious work stuff to have you pacing like this. Tom sighed, his facade crumbling. I made a mistake, a big one. It might cost me my job. Bingo. Is there anything I can do to help? He shook his head. I doubt it. It's a lot of money, more than we can afford. I smiled, a plan forming in my mind. Maybe I can help, but I have my conditions. Tom looked at me, desperation creeping into his eyes. What conditions? It's simple. Your mother apologizes to me for her behavior and works as our housemaid for a month. His jaw dropped. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious, Tom. Take it or leave it. The next day, Tom broke the news to Elaine. I wish I could have seen her face when he told her my conditions, but I heard enough from the tone of their voices. You're letting her control us like this? Elaine's voice was a mix of disbelief and anger. It's the only way, Mom. I don't have a choice. Her response was a hiss. Fine, but she'll regret this. I met with them later, the air thick with tension. Elaine, I'm waiting for your apology. She glared at me, her words forced. I'm sorry for the way I've treated you, Monica. I nodded, satisfaction flooding me. Good. You start tomorrow, as a housemaid. The next weeks were surreal. Elaine, once the queen of the house, was now scrubbing floors and doing laundry under my supervision. Her apologies and attempts at small talk were met with my cold indifference. I was not going to let her off easy. Tom watched this transformation in silence. His mother's submission and his wife's newfound assertiveness seemed to baffle him. He tried to intervene a few times, suggesting that Elaine had done enough, but I stood firm. It's only for a month, Tom. She agreed to it. As the days passed, Elaine's attitude started to change. Her initial anger and resistance gave way to a grudging respect. She began to realize that I was not the pushover she thought I was. One afternoon while she was folding laundry, Elaine spoke up. I misjudged you, Monica. You're stronger than I gave you credit for. I looked at her, my expression unyielding. It took you this long to realize that? She sighed, a hint of genuine remorse in her eyes. I guess it did. I'm sorry, truly. But I wasn't ready to let bygones be bygones. Your apology doesn't change the past, Elaine. Actions have consequences. The end of the month was approaching, and Elaine had completed her term as our housemaid. Tom's work crisis had been averted, thanks to my intervention. But the dynamics in our house had changed forever. As I sat in the living room, watching Elaine pack her bags, I felt a sense of closure. I had turned the tables, shown them that I was not someone to be underestimated or belittled. Monica, I hope we can move past this, Tom said, his voice hopeful, yet uncertain. I looked at him, my voice firm, yet fair. We can move forward, Tom, but we can't erase the past. Things have changed. And with that, Elaine left, the house feeling larger and somehow more mine than ever before. I had won this battle, but I knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a new chapter in my life, one where I was no longer a victim, but a victor. As I watched Tom struggling to come to terms with the new normal, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of pity. He had chosen his side long ago, and now he had to live with the consequences. But for me, this was a fresh start, a chance to rebuild my life on my terms. No more belittling, no more undermining. In the following days, Tom's attitude started to change. The man who once echoed his mother's words now treaded cautiously around me. Monica, I'm sorry for everything. I didn't realize how much it all affected you. I looked at him, my feelings a complex web of hurt and hope. Apologies are a start, Tom, but we have a long way to go. The house felt different now. Quieter, yes, but also more mine. I had fought for my place in it, and in doing so, had redrawn the lines that defined our relationship. Tom was no longer the unquestioned head of the household. We were partners, equals. In the quiet moments, I often reflected on the journey I had been on. From the hurt and humiliation of that fateful dinner, to the empowerment and strength I now felt. It had been a difficult road, but one that led to a profound transformation. I started to spend more time on my interests and passions, things I had put aside in my attempt to be the perfect wife. I enrolled in cooking classes, not to fulfill some outdated family tradition, but to explore my own love for culinary arts. Tom watched this transformation, sometimes with awe, sometimes with a hint of remorse. He had learned his lesson too, understanding now that respect and understanding were the foundations of our marriage, not control and belittlement. As I stand in my kitchen now, experimenting with flavors and spices, I can't help but smile. I'm not just Monica, the woman they thought they could walk over. I'm Monica, the woman who stood up for herself, who demanded and gained respect. This journey wasn't just about fighting against others. It was about discovering myself. Discovering the strength I always had but never acknowledged. It's a strength that won't be hidden again. I pour myself a glass of wine, taking a sip as I look around my kitchen, my home. It's a symbol of my journey, my struggles, and ultimately, my triumph. And as I sit down to enjoy the meal I've prepared, I realize that this is just the beginning. A new chapter in my life, one where I am the author of my own story. Tom walks in, a tentative smile on his face. That smells amazing, Monica. I nod, acknowledging his compliment. Thank you, Tom. Why don't you join me? As we sit down to eat, there's a new understanding between us. A respect that was hard-earned, but well worth the fight. I raise my glass, toasting to new beginnings, to respect, to love, but most importantly, to the strength we find within ourselves when we refuse to be diminished. Here's to us, Tom, to new beginnings. He clinks his glass against mine, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. To us, Monica, to new beginnings. And as we dine, the evening sun casting a warm glow over the room. The story of Monica's journey to empowerment has reached its end. But now I have a question for you. Was Monica right in refusing to forgive Elaine and Tom? Or should she have accepted their apologies and moved on? Share your thoughts in the comments below and let's discuss. And if you enjoyed this story, please remember to like and subscribe for more content. Your support means a lot.